She harassed me for weeks, trying to ruin my life. Then I discovered a shocking secret. Every month, she was sending me a rent check. My name is Ethan Miller, and I thought I had truly achieved it all. At a vibrant 32, I just cashed out my sports retail empire for a cool $800,000, envisioning a life of serene retirement. My ultimate fantasy, a cozy lake cabin where I could cast a line, soak up the sun, and pretend to be some rugged outdoorsman. A far cry from the decade I'd spent pushing sneakers and baseball mitts. Whispering Pines Lake, a tranquil haven, offered me this slice of paradise for $250,000, and my plan felt bulletproof. Early retirement, blissful living, perhaps even a ridiculous memoir on entrepreneurship. Unbeknownst to me, I also owned a rental property, acquired 6 months prior through my LLC, Northern Lakes Property Management, a mere investment diversification I'd never even bothered to visit. Oh, the irony. One Saturday morning, I was directing the movers, feeling like a maestro conducting an orchestra. The sofa by the window, I'd exclaim, "TV stand over there." I was basking in the glow of my early freedom, a true king of my castle. Suddenly, a woman shot across the street like a bolt of lightning, her designer workout gear shimmering, a professional camera swinging from her neck. Her eyes blazed with a righteous fury, usually reserved for those who've witnessed unspeakable atrocities. "Excuse me," she shrieked. Not a hint of a greeting, her voice immediately at full throttle. "What on earth do you think you're doing?" I tried to remain civil, assuming a simple misunderstanding. "I'm moving into my cabin," I stated calmly, hoping to foster neighborly goodwill. What a mistake that was. This woman, whom I later learned was named Brenda Sterling, began snapping photos of me as if I were some rare criminal discovered in her pristine suburban jungle. Click, click, click went her camera, capturing my couch, the moving truck, even my mailbox. "This is my neighborhood," she declared with the proprietorial air of a monarch, claiming territory. "I've been here for 12 years, and I know exactly who belongs and who doesn't." She quickly corrected herself, adding, I've been the HOA president for 12 years. But that initial slip, that possessive "I've lived here," was my first chilling hint that Brenda was concealing something profound. What truly unnerved me was her intimate knowledge of my property. She spoke of previous owners, a deck repair from 2 years ago, even a new water heater, invisible from the street. Was she a neighborhood spy, or did she have a deeper personal connection to my new home? Her gaze wasn't one of concern. It was a hungry stare at something she believed was hers. 20 minutes into this absurd spectacle, Brenda made a phone call that would irrevocably alter both our lives. She brandished her cell like a weapon and dialed 911 right in front of me. "Yes, officer," she dramatized, her voice theatrical. "There's a man here claiming ownership of a house I know he doesn't own. Moving trucks and everything. I suspect an elaborate theft is underway." I stood there dumbfounded, clutching my legal documents, as she reported me for the crime of moving into my own home. It felt like a surreal game show, where the grand prize was an arrest for homeownership. Officer Dale Hansen arrived 30 minutes later, looking utterly exhausted, clearly familiar with Brenda's antics. "Ma'am," he addressed her, and then came the line that should have illuminated everything for me. "I've responded to several tenant calls from your address." What seems to be the problem here? Tenant calls from Brenda's address? If she owned her house, why the dispute? But Brenda, ever the redirector, pointed him towards me, demanding my arrest for trespassing, fraud, identity theft, and probably even breathing too loudly. Her imagination for my alleged criminal activities was truly boundless. I presented my paperwork, deed, mortgage, insurance, title transfer, every document proving my legal ownership. Officer Hansen diligently verified everything, even calling the title company. Brenda grew increasingly agitated as the undeniable truth solidified. I was exactly who I claimed to be. "There must be some mistake," she wailed, as if her sheer volume could bend reality. "This was supposed to be my retirement home. People like him don't belong in neighborhoods like this." There it was, the mask finally slipping, revealing the ugliness beneath. Brenda Sterling wasn't just an overzealous HOA president. She was something far more sinister, and my peaceful lake retirement was about to become a living nightmare. Officer Hansen concluded his investigation, turning to Brenda, with an irritation that suggested this was a well-worn conversation. "Ma'am, Mr. Miller is the legal owner of this property. If you continue to harass him, or interfere with his legal right to occupy his home, I will have no choice but to file charges against you." Brenda's face contorted through a kaleidoscope of emotions: shock, rage, denial, and then a chilling, calculating glint that sent shivers down my spine. "This isn't over," she hissed, pointing a finger at me as if casting a hex. "I know people. I have connections. I won't let my neighborhood be destroyed by people like you." She stormed off, muttering about property values, leaving me and the bewildered movers, feeling like survivors of a natural disaster. Officer Hansen, shaking his head, handed me his card. "Look, I'll be blunt," he advised, his words more unnerving than they should have been. "Brenda Sterling calls us out here constantly. Get some cameras, document everything. Something tells me she's not done with you yet." But the puzzle remained. If Brenda owned her house, why the tenant dispute calls? What was she truly hiding? The next morning, a Sunday at 6 a.m., I awoke to the sound of clicking. Brenda Sterling, still in her pajamas, was outside my window, her professional camera aimed, documenting my supposed crimes. When I confronted her, she offered a sickly sweet smile, "Just ensuring everything's up to HOA standards. Neighbor, you wouldn't want to violate our community guidelines, would you?" HOA guidelines, I soon discovered, were her personal scripture, memorized and wielded with ruthless precision. Over the next 3 days, I collected 8 violation notices. My mailbox was the wrong shade of black, my landscaping excessive and non-conforming, my new curtains unauthorized modifications. She was conjuring violations from thin air, but this was just the prelude. Brenda began a smear campaign, spreading rumors door to door about the dangerous new resident, with suspicious documentation. My neighbor Robert Jenkins, a retired teacher and 20-year resident, brought me the intel I desperately needed. "That woman is obsessed with this cabin, Ethan," Robert confided over coffee on my new deck. "She owned it, you know, lost it 3 years ago, in a nasty divorce. Her husband left her for a younger woman, and she had to sell it for legal fees. She's never recovered." Suddenly everything clicked. Her possessive gaze, her intimate knowledge, the sheer fury. It wasn't about HOA rules. It was deeply, intensely personal. Brenda wanted her house back, and I was in her way. Robert then dropped another bombshell. "The strange thing is, Brenda doesn't even own the house she lives in now. She rents it, and she's a perfect tenant. From what I hear, always on time, keeps the place immaculate. But she's incredibly secretive about her landlord. Whenever anyone asks about repairs, she gets all cagey, changes the subject, almost like she doesn't want people to know." That afternoon, I launched my own investigation. Walking the neighborhood, I introduced myself, collecting tales of Brenda's increasingly unhinged behavior. Noise complaints against a newborn baby, fines for an elderly man's 3 backyard tomato plants, a veteran targeted for an oversized American flag. She weaponized the HOA, a one-woman demolition crew. Everyone mentioned her constant boasting about connections, about people who could make problems disappear. "Just wait until I call my people," she'd warn. It was a protection racket, but Brenda was the one people needed protection from. By Tuesday, her psychological warfare escalated. She compiled an evidence collection system of my alleged crimes, mapping my property in red, creating timelines of my suspicious activities, which included receiving mail at 2 p.m. instead of noon, and allowing unauthorized personnel, my pizza delivery guy, onto my property. She documented my every move like I was a spy. But Brenda, with her amateur sleuthing, underestimated modern technology. While she played detective, I installed a professional security system. Ring doorbells, motion sensors, cameras galore. Oh, the evidence she'd soon provide. The cameras captured her trespassing at dawn, measuring my grass with a ruler, peeking through my windows with binoculars, even trying my car doors for evidence of my criminal enterprise. She was completely unhinged, and I was documenting every single second. Wednesday brought new levels of madness. HOA harassment wasn't enough. Brenda moved to social media warfare. She flooded neighborhood forums with my picture and wild accusations. I was running a gambling ring, a drug distribution center, an identity theft scheme. Her imagination truly was something to behold, but her tech skills were antiquated. She posted her rants publicly, not in private groups, exposing her full mental breakdown to friends, family, and strangers alike. The comments section became a brutal roast, with people questioning her sanity. By week's end, I was utterly drained. The relentless harassment, legal fees, the constant surveillance, it was crushing me. My parents worried. My girlfriend questioned my choice to buy the cabin. Everyone urged me to give up. But Brenda was a bully, and something deep within me refused to let her win. Then a revelation. Thursday morning, reviewing footage, I saw a property management truck outside Brenda's house. The logo was partially obscured, but I recognized it as a rental company. A man in uniform inspected the property, Brenda following, clearly in tenant mode. My blood ran cold. This wasn't a coincidence. I suddenly remembered my own rental property. Could it be? Friday brought news I'd been dreading. Brenda called an emergency neighborhood meeting, convincing many that I was a genuine threat. I tried to reason with them. Robert sighed over the phone, but Brenda's got them terrified. She's showing photos, telling wild stories. Prepare for a hostile crowd tonight, Ethan. I hung up, feeling like I was walking to my own execution. Stress consumed me. I couldn't sleep, every noise making me jump. My appetite vanished. My girlfriend's worried texts went unanswered, and my parents noted a change in my voice. Yes, I was different. My dream retirement had become a waking nightmare, and Brenda was poised to turn the entire neighborhood against me. The community center meeting felt like a courtroom where I was already condemned. 20 people, a record turnout, listened as Brenda, prepared like a prosecutor, presented her evidence, photos, timelines, violation reports, even screenshots of me talking on my phone on my own deck. She had perfected stalking. Ladies and gentlemen, Brenda began, her voice resonating with a self-important authority. We are here tonight to address a clear and present danger. This man, she pointed at me like I was a plague carrier, has engaged in suspicious activities since his arrival. I have proof he's not who he claims to be, a significant threat to our property values and safety. You'd think I was running a meth lab, not enjoying morning coffee. What followed was 20 minutes of pure surreal insanity. Brenda, with the confidence of someone who'd solved a grand conspiracy, presented charts detailing my crimes, receiving packages at unusual hours. UPS came at 2 p.m., suspicious phone calls to my attorney, and unauthorized personnel, the pizza guy. The audience, to my horror, bought every word. Neighbors I'd never met nodded along, taking notes. Has anyone seen him doing anything normal? One woman asked. He just stands on his deck, looking around. That's surveillance. Another chimed in. My daughter was scared when he watered his plants yesterday. Why watch the street while watering unless you're casing the neighborhood? Every defense I offered only fueled Brenda's twisted narrative. My lawyer calls, proof of guilt, security cameras to protect myself, proof of criminal activity. She'd crafted a reality where my normal reactions were evidence of my pathology. When she called for a vote to remove this threat, I knew I was doomed. 12 people, strangers to me, signed a petition demanding I sell my property and leave. They spoke of legal action, even contacting media. Walking home, I hit rock bottom. Neighbors avoided eye contact. Parents herded children inside. In under a week, Brenda Sterling had made me a pariah. I felt helpless. That night, on my deck, I contemplated surrender, sell the cabin, cut my losses, return to my old life. Legal fees mounted. $4,000 in 3 days fighting her psychological war. My dream was a costly mistake, and Brenda, I feared, would win. But as I wallowed, something extraordinary happened. The evening mail truck arrived. The driver, instead of just dropping my mail, walked to Brenda's house, then returned to my mailbox, depositing something that wasn't mine, something that would blow this entire situation wide open. I waited until the truck vanished, then retrieved the mail. Sure enough, a piece for Brenda Sterling. But it wasn't just any mail, it was a rent check. A rent check for $2,200, payable to Northern Lakes Property Management. My hands trembled. Northern Lakes Property Management. That was my company, the LLC I'd set up 6 months ago. The company I'd forgotten amidst Brenda's relentless harassment. Crystal Henderson, not Crystal Stewart. She'd used her maiden name for the rental agreement, her married name everywhere else. She'd been paying rent to my company, to me for 6 months, while trying to destroy my life. The irony was so perfectly, insanely profound. I burst out laughing, standing in my driveway at 9 p.m., holding proof that the woman trying to get me arrested had been unwittingly funding her own harassment campaign. That night, I stared at the check, trying to rationalize it as a bizarre coincidence. But I knew the truth. Brenda Sterling, my tormentor, had been my tenant, unknowingly funding her own campaign of terror. Saturday morning, I called my attorney, Lila Peterson. Lila, I said, my voice barely steady, pull up the tenant info for Northern Lakes. I think I know who's renting my house. And if I'm right, this is about to get very interesting. While I waited, I pieced together the most twisted landlord-tenant saga in history. Lila called back 20 minutes later. Ethan, she exclaimed, you won't believe this. Your tenant is Brenda Henderson, rents for $2,200 a month. Always on time, never a complaint or maintenance request. The property management company says she's literally the perfect tenant. Brenda Henderson, Brenda Sterling. She'd kept her maiden name for the lease, her married name for everything else. No wonder she was so secretive about her landlord. She had no idea she was renting from the man she was trying to drive out of town. The universe, it seemed, had a darkly comedic sense of justice. But as I processed this mind-blowing discovery, Brenda was preparing her final assault. Saturday afternoon, she filed a formal complaint with the State Business Licensing Board, alleging I was running an illegal commercial operation from my cabin. Her complaint, a work of creative fiction, claimed I was holding illegal meetings and violating zoning laws, supported by photos of delivery trucks and screenshots of my phone calls. Sunday morning, she escalated further, contacting local news outlets, pitching a story about a dangerous criminal infiltrating their quiet community. Most ignored her, but one local paper sent a young reporter. He interviewed Brenda first, her performance about community safety and property values, audible through my windows. When he knocked on my door, I instantly knew he found her story ridiculous. Look, Mr. Miller, he said after I showed him my documents, I've seen a lot of neighbor dispute. This lady has a personal problem with you, but there's no story here. You bought a house, she doesn't like it. End of story. Undeterred, Brenda took to social media, convinced she was an investigative journalist, exposing a criminal conspiracy. She posted updates relentlessly, treating it like her personal news network, the Ethan Miller Crime Syndicate. But her biggest mistake was overconfidence. Monday afternoon, she made the call that would end it all. She contacted my property management company directly, posing as a concerned citizen, claiming I was under criminal investigation, a threat to the community. The property manager immediately called me. Miss Miller, we just received a very strange call from a Brenda Henderson, claiming you're under investigation. We need to verify everything is okay, I explained. And after a long pause, the manager spoke, slowly. Sir, the woman who called us about you was Brenda Henderson, your tenant for 6 months. She's been calling to complain about her own landlord. The manager was stunned. 20 years, and I've never seen anything like this. This is beyond bizarre. That afternoon, I made my decision. No more reacting. It was time to flip the script. I called Lila, instructing her to prepare eviction papers for tenant harassment. I called Officer Hansen, asking him to be present for a very important landlord-tenant meeting. Then I called the property management company, scheduling a meeting with Brenda Henderson for the next morning. Tell her the property owner wants to discuss some issues, I instructed, but give no other details. Just stress its importance, and suggest she bring her tenancy documents. The manager, though confused, agreed. As I prepared, I reflected on the week's surreal events. A week ago, I was just a guy moving into my dream cabin. Now, I was about to reveal to my tormentor that she'd been paying rent to me, the man she sought to destroy. The woman who thought she held all the power was about to discover I literally owned the roof over her head. I'd confirmed the impossible, And now the hardest part. How do you tell someone they've been paying rent to their worst enemy for 6 months? What would Brenda do? Tuesday morning, crisp and autumnal, usually a fresh start, felt like I was walking into the most surreal confrontation in real estate history. Officer Hansen was already there, bewildered but professional. Jennifer, the property manager, waited by her car, documents in hand. Inside, Brenda Sterling was about to face the shock of her life. My approach was decided. Calm, factual, no drama, no vengeance. Just the truth. She'd spent a week trying to ruin me, unaware that every rent check she'd written had funded my defense. The irony was so perfect. I almost felt a pang of sympathy. Almost. Brenda opened the door dressed in a business suit, a smug, confident smirk on her face. She clearly expected a victory. "Where is the property owner?" she asked, looking past me as if I were a mere assistant. "I was told this was urgent, and I have serious concerns to discuss." "Brenda," I said, my voice steady, "I am the property owner. You've been my tenant for 6 months. Northern Lakes Property Management is my company, and you've been paying rent to me since you moved into this house." The words hung heavy, an unexploded bomb. Brenda stared, her brain struggling to compute this impossible reality. "That's impossible," she stammered, her confidence crumbling. "Northern Lakes is legitimate. You're a criminal. You can't own my house." But doubt crept into her eyes. She knew I wouldn't make such a claim without proof. Her perfect plan had gone catastrophically wrong. Officer Hansen stepped forward, presenting my evidence. Bank statements showing 6 months of $2,200 deposits from Brenda Henderson, the purchase agreement for her house, property tax records, listing Northern Lakes Property Management as owner, her rental application, her signed lease. "Ma'am," Officer Hansen said gently, "these documents appear legitimate. Mr. Miller owns this property, and you've been paying him rent for 6 months. Do you dispute any of this?" Brenda snatched the papers, her eyes frantic, trying to will the words to change. Confusion, disbelief, anger, then desperate panic washed over her face. "This is a setup," she shrieked, her voice rising. "He forged these, hacked my bank. There's no way I've been paying this criminal for 6 months. Impossible." But the evidence was overwhelming, her own signature undeniable. Jennifer, the property manager, opened her folder, revealing 6 months of on-time rent, approvals for minor modifications, even a complimentary review. Brenda had written about how professional and responsive her property management company was. "Miss Henderson," Jennifer said softly, "you've been an exemplary tenant. Never complained, never requested major repairs, even sent us a thank you card." That's when Brenda completely snapped. She screamed about conspiracies and fraud, convinced I was a criminal mastermind who'd infiltrated her life. She grabbed her own evidence binder, the one meant to incriminate me, and began flinging papers around, as if destroying her surveillance data would erase reality. "You planned this," she raged at me. "You found out where I lived, bought my house just to torment me. This is revenge for trying to protect my neighborhood." The accusation was so ludicrous, I almost laughed, but Brenda was clearly having a breakdown, and despite everything, I felt a flicker of pity. Officer Hansen tried to calm her, but she was beyond reason, lost in her own delusion of my master plan. It was easier for her to believe I was a criminal genius manipulating records, than to accept a simple, crushing coincidence. That's when I produced the eviction notice. "Brenda," I stated, "as your landlord, I'm giving you 30 days to vacate. Reasons: harassment of the landlord and other tenants, filing false reports with government agencies, and creating a hostile community environment. You have 30 days to find new housing." The document sealed her fate. Brenda Sterling, HOA president and self-appointed watchdog, was being evicted by the man she'd spent a week trying to run out of town. She stared at the notice blankly. "You can't evict me," she whimpered. "I'm a perfect tenant. I pay on time. I take care of the property. You can't evict someone for protecting their neighborhood." But Officer Hansen calmly explained, her harassment, false reports, and smear campaign constituted lease violations, legal grounds for eviction. As reality crashed down, Brenda made one last, desperate attempt to salvage her pride. "Fine," she declared, regaining a semblance of composure. "I'll move out, but I'll make sure everyone knows what you really are. I'll tell the world how you manipulated everything to get revenge on an innocent woman, just trying to protect her community." Little did she know she would become an internet sensation, just not in the way she imagined. Watching her get handcuffed in the house she rented from me, a terrifying thought struck me. This was only the beginning. What happens when the internet discovers a Karen who paid rent to her own victim? Was I ready for the explosion? Within 6 hours, 3 videos of our dramatic revelation went viral. Officer Hansen had allowed Jennifer to film for legal purposes, but somehow, that footage found its way online. A neighbor recorded Brenda's screaming meltdown from her window. Even Brenda herself live-streamed part of her own collapse, thinking she was documenting my crimes, not her own unraveling. The internet devours karma stories, but this was cosmic justice on steroids, topped with pure irony. Woman harasses neighbor for a week, discovers he's her landlord. Trended everywhere. Her face became the new meme for self-destruction. Watching the view counts soar into the millions was both exhilarating and terrifying. This was no longer just a neighborhood dispute. Brenda's week-long absurdity was perfect internet fodder. People dug up her social media posts, revealing a timeline of self-immolation. Day 1, dangerous criminal moves in. Day 3, illegal operation suspect. Day 7, oh wait, I've been paying this guy rent for 6 months. You truly couldn't write it. Morning shows picked up the story. I received calls from Good Morning America, local news, even true crime podcasters. What crime, I wondered, beyond Brenda's assault on common sense? My phone became a constant ring. The real explosion occurred when Brenda's past harassment of other residents came to light. The veteran she'd reported for his American flag, he shared his 2-year ordeal. The family with the newborn, their story of noise complaints for excessive crying babies, apparently must adhere to HOA rules. The elderly man with tomato plants, his violation notices for unauthorized agriculture. Brenda Sterling wasn't just a one-off Karen. She was a serial terrorizer who'd finally met her match. The comment sections were brutal, hilariously so. People called her everything from the dumbest person alive to a masterclass in self-destruction. Someone even charted her rent payments against her harassment campaign, revealing she'd funded my legal defense to the tune of. The universe, it seemed, had an accounting degree. By Thursday, Brenda achieved main character of the day status. Don't Brenda Sterling yourself became shorthand for not undermining someone with power over you. Local businesses jokingly put up signs, "Brenda Sterling not welcome here." The hardware store advertised, "Security cameras available, protect yourself from your tenants." Legal consequences piled up. The state licensing board dropped its investigation into me when they realized the complaint came from my tenant. The police announced Brenda would face charges for harassment and false reports. Officer Hansen later told me he'd never seen someone so thoroughly document their own criminal behavior while trying to incriminate someone else. Brenda predictably handled her internet fame poorly. She tried to control the narrative, but her attempts only added fuel to the fire. Her claims of protecting the community fell flat against bank records, showing she'd paid my mortgage. Property management companies fielded calls from journalists, and other landlords shared their own tales. Though none matched Brenda's ironic justice, real estate professionals used our story as a case study, and a presentation titled, "How Not to Harass Your Own Landlord" circulated. Friday brought news Brenda hired an attorney to fight the eviction, but her case was hopeless. Her social media posts, violation reports, and calls to agencies were all time-stamped evidence against her. Her lawyer reportedly sought a quiet settlement, but her reputation was already shattered. Everyone for 50 miles knew Brenda Sterling. The neighborhood too transformed. Property values actually rose because people wanted to live in the community that birthed the most famous landlord-tenant story. Realtors used it as a selling point. Come to Whispering Pines, where even the drama has a happy ending. Robert Jenkins, now the new HOA president, revised community guidelines to prevent future Brenda Sterling situations. Local businesses capitalized with themed promotions. The hardware store's cameras, the coffee shop's Brenda Sterling drink, bitter, overpriced, left a bad taste. Even the post office joked about checking addresses. As for me, my quiet retirement had become an internet spectacle. My phone rang constantly with interview requests, book deals, even Hollywood producers. It was surreal but deeply satisfying to watch Brenda face public consequences. For a week, she'd tried to destroy me. Now the internet revealed who she truly was. But as the stories spread, a discomfort grew. Yes, she'd relentlessly harassed me, built fantasies to ruin me. But watching a life implode on social media was harder to enjoy than I'd expected. She was clearly in a psychological crisis, and the world watched her fall apart. 10 million views, national news, her face a global meme. Had I gone too far? When does justice become revenge? Tuesday morning, crisp and fresh, I watched Brenda load boxes into a moving truck across the street. She was packing up her belongings from the house I owned, while I watched from the cabin she tried to force me to sell. If that isn't cosmic justice, I don't know what is. The universe certainly has a twisted sense of humor. Brenda found a new place 40 miles away, hoping to escape her internet infamy. Good luck with that. In the age of social media, there's no hiding when you become a viral sensation for harassing your own landlord. She'll forever be the cautionary tale. The legalities wrapped up quickly. Her lawyer, realizing the futility, agreed to a settlement. Brenda would move out voluntarily, pay me $12,000 for harassment, and accept a restraining order. In return, I wouldn't sue her into oblivion, though criminal charges for false reports were pending. Her lawyer actually thanked me for my reasonableness. Code for my client is insane, and you're a saint for not utterly destroying her. Watching her pack was like a reality show finale where the villain finally gets her due. She'd been a perfect tenant for 6 months before she knew I owned her house. On-time payments, zero complaints, even a Christmas card. If she'd simply minded her own business, we could have continued indefinitely, but Brenda couldn't. Her character flaw cost her everything. The neighborhood's transformation was incredible. Property values soared, people moving in because of our story. Realtors used it. Come to Whispering Pines, where even the drama has a happy ending. The new HOA, led by Robert, implemented common sense policy. The vibe was friendlier, more welcoming. Removing one toxic person truly was like removing cancer. Robert stopped by with updates. You know, Ethan, he said, settling into my deck chair. Brenda tried to get me to sign that petition against you. Threatened to report my bird feeders. Said they attracted nuisance wildlife. She ran this place like a dictatorship. Everyone was too scared to cross her. The veteran was targeted for his politics, the baby family for their children's sounds, the old man for his low-class tomato plant. 3 months later, I hosted the first annual Whispering Pines community barbecue at my cabin. 60 people showed up, including new families drawn by our community's positive change. It was everything Brenda's HOA meetings weren't. Welcoming, fun, focused on unity, not misery. Kids played, adults chatted, genuinely happy to be part of a community that stood up to bullies. The house Brenda vacated was rented to an amazing young family with twin toddlers, a teacher dad, a nurse. Their happy, noisy presence would have sent Brenda into a meltdown, but the new HOA welcomed them, and they quickly became beloved. These kids are living proof. Communities thrive on unity, not division. I still get updates on Brenda via the internet grapevine. She's working retail in a new town, living quietly. The viral videos are her permanent digital record, but her 15 minutes are fading. I wonder if she learned anything, but mostly I'm just grateful she's someone else's problem. The math still makes me laugh. Brenda paid me $13,200 in rent, while trying to get me arrested, investigated and driven out. She literally funded her own harassment. Business schools use our story as a case study. Know who you're dealing with before declaring war. Some college student is probably writing a paper on how Brenda Sterling's emotions overrode common sense. Looking back, I learned the best response to a bully is sometimes to let them destroy themselves. Brenda was so convinced I was the villain, she never questioned her own reality. Her obsession blinded her, costing her everything she thought she was protecting. She spent more energy trying to ruin me than most spend on their jobs, only to evict herself from a great rental and become internet famous for all the wrong reasons. 6 months later, Whispering Pines is my dream community. Neighbors look out for each other. The HOA focuses on improvements. New residents feel welcomed. We're living proof that removing a single person thriving on conflict can transform an entire community for the better. There it is. Brenda Sterling spent 6 months unknowingly paying rent to the man she tried to destroy, funding her own harassment to the tune of $13,200, only to receive an eviction notice and permanent internet infamy. The lesson is simple. Check who owns your house before declaring war. And maybe, just maybe, mind your own business once in a while. You never know when that stranger you're harassing might control the roof over your head.